Hey people, I'm here with a friend of mine. We worked together for 3.5 years for AFS Brazil while I was a chairman for them. We're going to talk about exchange programs, about cultural learning, about many other stuff. He's Lucas Welter. He's also a Brazilian, but he lives in New York for many, many years. Welcome to the channel. My dear friend, how are you today?
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for the invitation again. So far, so good. It's here in the United States. The COVID vaccination is moving really fast. So we see a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities coming back. With the end of the pandemic at sight, I understand that's not exactly the same situation in Brazil. Fingers crossed, things will get better. When things get better, I hope we can see each other again in person, not only via Zoom.
I hope so as well. Lucas, what is exactly AFS and what is an exchange program?
AFS stands for American Field Service, and it's one of the oldest, most traditional high school exchange organizations. But AFS, it's more than just a high school exchange organization. So we believe that AFS programs, they empower young people from all different backgrounds with the essential skills and the passion for making a difference, where we move people from one place to another one to live with a family that opens their arms, their hearts, to have a participant, an exchange student at home for different periods of time, but most traditionally for like 1 year, where they live as a citizen, where they live as a member of that family, of that culture, and they interact, with the community, they interact with school, and they learn how to become a member of the family, a member of that culture, a citizen of the world, as we call it.
What is a global citizen, Lucas?
To be a global citizen, and that's, probably you can find many different definitions for that, and that's a very good question, and sometimes we don't have a super precise answer, but a global citizen is somebody who has the passion, it's somebody who cares deeply about the world and has the passion to make changes or to see the possibility of making changes to improve the world where we live or to improve the communities where we are. It's somebody who's passionate about, who we are, that's somebody who can see the kind of challenges that we have in the world, and somebody who's able to take the first steps to make a difference moving forward. So it's somebody who can recognize the challenges that we have, and somebody that at the same time can take the first steps to make a difference and to take some action to make a difference.
I agree with you. We are citizens and we have to be worried. Mostly after this pandemic, we have to know that we have to care about other people as well and not only ourselves. What is your passion about intercultural learning? Why do you like to work with this?
I have to say that there's a lot of commercialization or commodization. This idea of becoming a citizen of the world, it's something that every single exchange program, every single travel agency, they use that idea in order to attract people, because especially I think for the Brazilian audience, it's a very nice thing to do, to have this global mindset, this global outlook. How can we connect with other cultures? But the way we see a global citizen in AFS, and that's why we like the idea of this active global citizen, it's you get exposed to another culture, you learn how to interact, how to appreciate, how to assimilate, elements of another culture into you. So that's the first step. That's intercultural learning, as we call, is this idea to be able to empathize with problems that are not your problems, with a culture, with values, with differences that are not exactly yours. So that's the first step in intercultural learning. In order to understand, in order to empathize, in order to connect with people that are very different from you. And that's a beautiful thing. I was born in a very small town in Brazil with very homogeneous, and everybody around me was pretty much the same, would think in the same way, would behave in the same way, would value the same things, and being able to disconnect from that and learn that people could value different things, that people could see things in different ways. I think this is very, very powerful. And I think that for me was a transformative experience. So that's why I'm so passionate about, and that's why I believe everybody should have, those kind of skills, to be able to see things from a perspective that's not exactly the perspective that you grew up with, a perspective that it's not exactly your perspective, a perspective that comes from somebody else. And that's the beauty of empathy, and that's the beauty of intercultural learning by the end of the day.
Why do you think people should learn English?
Because number one, it's not a difficult language to learn. That's not so complicated as some people think it is. Business happens in English around the planet, so it's an essential language for everybody who wants to do business around the planet. That's another thing. While pop culture, music, that's movies, that's advertisement, where pop culture is dominated by the United States, I think it's essential to be able to get that kind of information firsthand. And then English, it's fundamental. For example, French was the language of pop culture before the United States. So learning French was very important. Nowadays, and probably for the past 40, 50 years, pop culture is dominated by the United States, was in the same way, was a little bit dominated by the UK, by England. So English became the language of pop culture. So for everyone who wants to get first-hand information, then English, it's a must. It makes it easier for us to connect. You see a lot of people studying English. It makes kind of the lingua franca for the planet at this stage.
I agree with you. What is your position at AFS International, Lucas?
I have what I think is a fancy title. I'm Chief Organizational Development and Strategy Officer, but let's try to unpack this. I coordinate the relationships with AFS International. That's an umbrella organization for all the different AFS organizations around the planet. So you have AFS in Brazil, you have AFS in Argentina, you have AFS in Spain, AFS in Malaysia. So the relationships between AFS International, the core, and the relationship with the branches, it's completely, coordinated by one of my teams at AFS International. It's a pleasure to be practicing intercultural learning on a daily basis in those interactions with those offices. There is another piece that's internal and external communications, everything that we communicate from an institutional perspective outside AFS and inside AFS, from the website, social media, and formal statements that we do. It's another team that I coordinate that does that. Of everything that we call organizational development. So everything related to the policies and practices around volunteer development, how we engage, how we manage, how we work with volunteers around the planet, how we work with staff around the planet. So everything that's people related, so how transformational processes, everything related to people in the organization. So the things that usually as a participant, we don't see much, but all what we would call in the past, the HR function, the human resources function that today has a fancier name, that's human capital, but that's everything related to people in the organization. I coordinate the efforts around strategy, what we want to go and how we're going to go to that direction, and how we align the whole organization and all the 60 organizations that we have, how we align them around a common goal, a common strategy moving forward. That's pretty much some of the jobs. And I have a lot of pleasure working with the different organizations, the different board members. That's how I met you, having the opportunity to collaborate on different projects with different people. And that's, so.
My last question for you, you knew me not as an English teacher, but as a volunteer. What is the fondest memory that you have of me?
I think you were able to teach me a lot of things, Rodrigo, and things that, one thing that I think of almost on a daily basis. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but we were in Sao Paulo, and I'm very tall. I'm almost, I'm 1 meter, 91 centimeters tall. You are most of the time in a wheelchair. And I come from this position of privilege in working with people that I'm just tall, and you were able to teach me that, when you are in the condition that you are sitting in a wheelchair, I should be able to just, look at you in the same height. Otherwise, you will be very tired or get very, very tired. Yeah. For me, that was a beautiful thing to learn. I never paid attention to it, and thank you to you. Now I behave completely different with people that has different needs. So now I'm always very cautious. I'm always trying to, be at the same level and talk at the same level. So I think that was a beautiful learning from you. Thank you so much. Yeah, you've been also a very generous person to AFS, dedicating your time, your knowledge, your expertise, and that's a very fun memory that I have to you. All the dedication, all the commitment that you had to AFS. So that's beautiful too.
And thank you so much. When we are sitting in a wheelchair, sometimes we have to be sometimes it's not comfortable. It's good to know that you learn that the leveling of the eye of a person in a wheelchair is not the same of a person who's standing. But it's a lifelong journey. And now, before we finish, we're going to play the rapid round. The most beautiful word in English for you.
I love the sound of happiness.
The sound and the meaning, right?
Exactly, right?
New York is
Hard.
working with different people all the time is
It's definitely a privilege.
I like it when
I'm surrounded by people.
my next station will be.
I don't know. No, I'm not in a hurry now.
Awesome. Now you can ask me the questions.
Something that motivated you in the next week.
Producing content, teaching people, and learning from people.
Beautiful. Something that gave you pause over the past week.
It's been a couple of months. I have so much on my plate right now, but I never forget the organization. And I wish someday I can come back and be what I was before.
What for you? Because you're an English teacher, so your vocabulary is outstanding, So what's your most beautiful word in English?
Tomorrow.
I love it.
Because no matter what happens, there will always be a new tomorrow.
That is true. That's a beautiful thing. Don't forget that. This week is going to be
Crazy. I'm happy, by the way, because if it wasn't for work and for all the things that are going on, this pandemic would be driving me crazy.
Do you have a ritual for self-care?
I work from 9 to 9, as I told you. When I finish, I like to lie down and I like to talk to people. I talk to my wife, I talk to my children, and I talk to my friends. It's really nice. If you don't talk with someone else, sometimes you get so much introspective, and keeping the things only for yourself, sometimes it's not good. So sometimes you have to let it out. And I love talking to people. I love learning from people. That's amazing. Well, Lucas, we finished, and I would like to thank you for being here with me. But before I finish, I always have a sentence or a takeaway for every guest. And for you, it's not very hard to find something because we worked very close together for 3.5 years, and it was really good. One thing that AFS has taught me, and you taught me, was resilience. I never lost my cool. I learned how to be even more proactive, to choose the right words, even though we are nervous, we are anxious. But there's something that you told me during a meeting that I'll never forget, when people say, don't take it too personal for you. And you told me something, only if you are a rock, you don't take it personally. So it doesn't matter if you go to a psychologist every single day or if you go for years, you're not a rock. You have feelings. So we can overcome that feeling. But when you feel that, you have to go through it, work around it, and come to terms with it. That's something I learned. So when people tell me now, don't take it too personally, I say, I'm sorry, but I'm not a rock. Only rocks can take things personally. That's something that you taught me, and I'll never forget. Also, your kindness, because you play with words. You choose the right ones at the right time. One other thing that you taught me was say sorry before anything else, and then you start again. So thank you very much for that. I learned so much. Whatever you guys need me for, I'll always be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. You are my best example of resilience, so nothing else, needs to be said. So I appreciate the opportunity. I admire your work, and it's so nice to be here with you again, and I look forward to collaborating with you again in the future.
Just let me know. This was Lucas Welter. I hope you liked the interview. Lucas, once again, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.